United States hunting down Afghan-Drug-Lords. At least 50 Afghans believed or thought to be drug traffickers with ties to the Taliban have been placed on a Pentagon hit list, reflecting a major shift in American counter-narcotics strategy in Afghanistan, according to a congressional study. United States military commanders have told Congress that they are convinced that the policy is legal under the military's rules of engagement and international law. They also said that the move is an essential part of their new plan to disrupt and eradicate the flow of drug money that is helping to finance the Taliban insurgency. So they say. In interviews with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, 2 American generals serving in Afghanistan said that major traffickers with links to the insurgency have been put on the joint integrated prioritized target list. That means they have been given the same target status as insurgent or Taliban leaders and can be taken out or killed at any time. So the U.S. now has a hit list. The generals told Senate staff members that 2 sources and substantial or additional evidence were required before a trafficker was placed on the list. Currently, they said, there are approximately 50 major traffickers who are on the list and could be contributing money to the Taliban. We have a list of 367 kill or capture targets, including 50 nexus targets who link drugs and the insurgency, one of the generals told the committee staff. The generals are not identified in the Senate report, which has been obtained by the New York Times. This shift in policy comes as the Obama administration, deep into the war in Afghanistan, makes significant changes to its strategy for dealing with that country's drug trade, which provides 90% of the world's heroin and has led to substantial Afghan government corruption. The Senate report's disclosure of a hit list for drug traffickers may lead to criticism in the United States over the expansion of the military's mission. They call it mission creep. And NATO allies have already raised serious questions about the strategy of just killing individuals who are not traditional military targets. The ever-expanding hit list. For years, the American-led mission in Afghanistan had focused on destroying poppy crops. Pentagon officials have said their new emphasis is on weaning local farmers off the drug trade, including the possibility of paying them to grow nothing. Well, they could pay them for growing nothing, and then they'll still grow poppies. They'll be able to collect double that way. The Senate report is the first account of a policy to actually place drug chieftains or drug traffickers on a hit list. Several individuals suspected of ties to drug trafficking have already been apprehended, and others have been killed or taken out by the United States military since the new policy went into effect earlier this year. a senior military official with direct knowledge of the matter said in an interview. Most of the targets are in southern and eastern Afghanistan, where both the drug trade and the insurgency are the most intense. Somehow, some kind of way, this doesn't really sound the right way to do it. This is not the right thing to do. One American military officer serving in Afghanistan described the purpose of the target list for the Senate committee. Our long-term approach is to identify the regional drug figures, the unidentified officer is quoted as saying in the Senate report. The goal, he said, theoretically, is to persuade them to choose legitimacy or remove them from the battlefield. In other words, just take them out. How many people are they going to take out? How are they going to know for sure? They don't get a trial? When Donald H. Rumsfeld was Defense Secretary, the Pentagon fiercely resisted efforts to draw the United States military into supporting counter-narcotics efforts. Top military commanders feared that trying to prevent drug trafficking would only antagonize regional warlords whose support they needed and might turn more of the population against American troops. And yes, that scenario is a very likely scenario. And this is the way it gets done. This is the why. The policy of going after drug lords is likely to raise serious legal questions or concerns from some NATO countries that have troops in Afghanistan. Several NATO countries initially questioned whether the new policy would comply with international law. This was a hard sell in NATO, said retired General John Craddock, who was Supreme Allied Commander of NATO forces until he retired in July. General Craddock said that some NATO countries were also concerned that the new policy would draw the drug lords closer to the Taliban because they would turn to them for more protection. And in a surprise, the Senate report reveals that the United States intelligence community believes that the Taliban has been getting less money from the drug trade than previous public studies have suggested. The CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency both estimate that the Taliban obtains approximately $70 million a year from drugs. The Senate report found that American officials did not believe that Afghan drug money was fueling Al-Qaeda, which instead relies on contributions from wealthy individuals and charities in the Persian Gulf countries, as well as aid organizations working inside Afghanistan. So, in reality, or in other words, even if they take out all the drug lords and stop the flow of the opium or the heroin, which is unlikely, at least completely, what happens then? That won't stop Al-Qaeda or the Taliban from doing what they do or they're going to do. And very likely, this will make more people mad at the United States, create more enemies, more anger, more hatred. Yes, it's very possible that this could backfire. Very well, it could backfire. And, once again, what are they really fighting for in Afghanistan? Wasn't the original goal to go after Osama bin Laden? Is he still even alive? Now they seem to be fighting all kinds of people, making more enemies as they go, perhaps. Anyway, once again, There's something more, something bigger going on here. And these are more signs of the end times transition days. The transition is picking up pace. And these are more signs happening every day all around the world.